With his 64% chance of winning the 2024 contest, Donald Trump's odds against Kamala Harris are highest ever. This implies that she has never performed worse than she is right now at any point since the vice president started her candidacy. Polymarket's revised 2024 election projection, as well as their state-by-state markets, will be seen in this video to help one understand where Harris and Trump stand on the road to 270 electoral votes. Over the past 3 months, the race between Trump and Harris has been fiercely competitive. No candidate has reached odds of over 55% until Trump began to surge just a few weeks ago, and he has lately assumed a 28% lead in the betting markets. Returning to the map, I have already filled in the solid states for the nominees. Harris or Trump's races carry a 95% chance or more of success. We will just concentrate on the 17 most competitive races still under gray classification. The states will ultimately decide who the 47th president is going to be. We will now start coloring this map starting with the likely states for Donald Trump, races where he has between a 75 to a 95% chance of winning. Though Trump will still have a clear edge, these states will be more competitive in the solid states. Starting in the lower Midwest with Iowa and Ohio, two races where Trump's chances of winning sit at precisely 94%, right under the 95% threshold for a race to be solid. After first flipping the two states back in 2016 and then carrying them by the exact same margins against Joe Biden in 2020, Trump has led consistently throughout the year, and there's no doubt he is going to win Iowa and Ohio for a third straight. Traveling down south to the Sun Belt, Trump is also the favorite in Texas, a state he carried by just over 5 in 2020 and by 9 points in 2016. Mitt Romney in 2012 was the last Republican to easily win Lone Star State. Trump will most likely carry Texas by 15 points or more in 2024, but he will most definitely win the state by a double-digit margin. Like in Iowa and Ohio, he has precisely a 94% chance of winning the state. In fact, right now his odds are better than they have ever been. Even though the race for the Senate between Ted Cruz and Colin Allred is shockingly close, it won't have much of an impact on the presidential election. Clearly, Donald Trump is the preferred choice. His biggest margin yet will help him to win Texas. And in Florida, another state where Trump is about to surpass a personal record, mostly due to the state's extreme right turn since he entered the political scene. He barely 1% defeated Clinton in the Sunshine State in 2016, his first year of presidency. Then, in 2020, he tripled his margin while none others thought he would even be likely to win the state at all. He is aiming at least twice his 2020 margin this time. Florida is going to go to Trump by roughly 7-10 points, and the betting markets give him a 94% chance at triumph once more, right under the 95% threshold. Like in Texas, his chances here are also at an all-time high. The state is also most likely Republican. Finally, to wrap up, Alaska is among the likely red states, another race where Trump has a 94% chance of winning. It is about to become solid. And Trump is sitting at just under 95 in 5 states as well. These states will all be dark red very, very soon as the market keeps trending in Trump's advantage. Finally, Trump stands with a 92% chance of winning in Maine's 2nd district. And so, with these solid and probably states now occupied by Donald Trump, he leads with 219 electoral votes. We will now color Kamala Harris in the expected states. Though they are clearly more competitive than the safe blue states, these states will be races where she is quite likely to win. We shall begin in New Mexico, where the vice president stands 91% likely to win. Joe Biden carried 11 points in the last election, a race that became extremely competitive just before he withdrew following that disastrous debate performance. Particularly as Hispanic voters continue to move to the right, New Mexico will surely become competitive once more. Of course, New Mexico is the only state having a majority Hispanic voters. For now, Kamala Harris and the Democrats will be able to hang on to New Mexico. On our map, it will most certainly be Democrat. Kamala Harris is only on target to win next in Minnesota since she selected Governor Tim Walsh as her running buddy. Minnesota was really rather competitive prior to that. At one point, Donald Trump had a 44% chance of winning a state no Republican has carried since 1972. For the Democrats, the fact that his chances are more than 10% is rather unfortunate news. Kamala Harris has been struggling in Minnesota, even though she is running on the ticket with the little governor of the state. She leads by less than 4 points in the polls when Joe Biden won Minnesota by a 7-point margin. Kamala Harris is still likely to carry Minnesota even if it's not by the biggest margin in terms of winning the state totally. And thus, on the map, it will most likely be blue. We will now travel up to the northeast, where we come upon Maine. With an 87% chance of success, Kamala Harris is obviously the preferred choice. Trump comes at 14. With Trump's chances rising as high as 41 points, the state is not almost as competitive as it was earlier this summer. Recall that Joe Biden carried this state by a double-digit margin almost exactly in the last election. Though the race is going to be closer today, the vice president is still the favorite, same as in Minnesota in terms of winning the state outright. It's probably blue as well. Furthermore included is New Hampshire, a state decided by less than half of a percentage point back in 2016. Still, Joe Biden did perform far better. 4 years later, he defeated Trump here with over 7 points. Additionally, today Kamala Harris has an 85% chance of winning New Hampshire. Actually, the race got quite close, just as it did in Maine during summer. Trump came rather near to leading. However, Democrats are in a rather better position since Harris has entered the race. And once all the votes are tallied, she is probably going to win the granted state. New England thus has another likely blue state under development. And the Commonwealth of Virginia, where Kamala Harris has an 85% chance of winning, will eventually most likely show on this map. Trump is 16. Given that Joe Biden did win Virginia by a double-digit margin just 4 years ago, this is rather underwhelming performance on the part of the vice president. Still, the race is much more fierce nowadays. Harris is just 3 points ahead. Furthermore, Trump really led in the polling average before Joe Biden withdrew from the contest. He was supposed to win Virginia totally. He is certainly competitive here, but he performed worse than he did against Harris a few months ago. As Virginia keeps turning back to the right, it will only become more competitive from here. For now, though, Democrats still have a minor edge, and it will be the last probable state shown on the map. Harris stands an 88% chance of winning in Nebraska's 2nd district as well. With just 7 states left and these solid and likely states filled in for both candidates, Trump and Harris are neck and neck, both at roughly 220 electoral votes. We shall now complete our last category of states. These will be the lean states, in which either contender stands with a 55 to 75% probability of winning. On this map, there are no tilt states. Thus, every surviving state obviously prefers one nominee or the other. Our starting point will be the lean Trump states. And this is where Kamala Harris finds things truly terrible. Right now, she may have a 7 electoral vote lead, but that advantage is going to fade fast. Beginning in the Grand Canyon state, Donald Trump has a shockingly 71% chance of winning this race in just 2 weeks. Actually, right now, his chances are exactly the same as they were before Joe Biden withdrew from the contest. This implies that nothing has truly changed following all the effort Democrats went through to choose the nominee at top of their ticket. Donald Trump is leading this race, and it is abundantly evident in Arizona that he will be reclaiming the state from Biden 4 years ago after losing it narrowly. Trump leads by 1.6% according to the polls. Arizona will most certainly be lean Republican. Georgia comes next. Another state that very narrowly voted for Joe Biden in the last election is Georgia, but one Trump is definitely en route to reverse today. Actually, the graph resembles what we are observing in Arizona rather closely. Trump's odds surged even more in just the last 3 days. His chances of winning are 75%. He has been ahead all through the election cycle. His chances just keep rising as the election approaches. He leads by 1.8% according to the polls. Actually, he leads in practically every single poll released from the Peach State during the past 2 weeks. Georgia will enter the Trump column and have a lean Republican bent as well. Proceeding up to North Carolina, typically this would be the most conservative of all 7 swing states. In the past election, this is the only one Trump actually won. He carried just over 1%. Mark Robinson, the Republican candidate for governor, explains why Trump's prospects in North Carolina are less than those in Arizona and Georgia. He will lose and is running a horrible campaign. He probably won't significantly affect Trump, though. Though it's clearly negative, it won't be sufficient to cause Trump to lose the Tar Heel state totally. That's why the chances for the former president dropped right at Robinson's hit with another significant scandal in early September. However, His chances have improved since then, much as in Georgia and Arizona. Here, too, is the case. From North Carolina, he leads an astonishingly majority of polls. On average, he is up by 0.5%. On our map, the state will be lean Republican as well. And thus, Trump requires just one of the 4 surviving states to secure the presidency. Actually, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania will all do. Nevada cannot be it. And with the keystone state of Pennsylvania, 19 electoral votes, where Trump has a 61% chance of winning, he will most likely cross 270 electoral votes. Pennsylvania has always been rather competitive for the 2 contenders. Trump's highest lead ever came at just 67%. With Harris and Trump going back and forth, the Keystone State race has been quite fierce over the past 3 months. But now we're in the last stretch, and Trump's lead is just keeping growing. Now, the former president leads a 60-40 margin. He leading the polling average helps to explain this in great part. In 6 of the 7 most recent state polls, he leads. Based on real group politics, he is on target to win by just under 1%. Pennsylvania will thus also be leading for the GOP and most likely the tipping point state that helps Trump to be elected. Though not yet done, Trump isn't. It seems rather likely that he is resolved to win this election in a modern-day landslide. With a 57% chance of winning, Trump is also the strong favorite in Michigan. And this is most likely one of the states where Kamala Harris's downfall is most obviously visible. The vice president had a 68% chance of winning the Wolverine state just half a month ago. Almost a 2 to 3 chance of carrying a state Joe Biden won by almost 3 points 4 years past. Her chances today have actually dropped rather steadily, all the way down to just 43%. She essentially holds the worst posture she has ever taken since before running for office. Michigan will thus be also leading for Donald Trump. On top of the states he truly needs to win, it will be an extra prize. Harris has just a 43% chance of winning. Thus, she will also suffer a hard loss in Wisconsin. Harris was also the favorite throughout all of August and September, same like in Michigan. But her campaign essentially fell apart as we started October. Now clearly favored is Trump, who is also on target to win Wisconsin. Along with his 2 upper Midwestern neighbors, another state he acquired back in 2016 since 1992, these 3 states have voted together in every single election, for a Democrat or for a Republican. And Trump will continue that conventional way of life. Given that the former president has lately taken front stage in the polling average, the state will be lean red. At last we are left with just Nevada, although I do believe you people are beginning to see a trend. The Silver State will likewise be lean Republican. Here Trump stands with a 56% chance of winning. Though it is a state that no Republican has won since 2004, he has lately taken the initiative in the polls. Therefore, this would be a significant triumph for Donald Trump, but it is quite in line with his expected general performance, which will be quite dominating. Since 2012, this will be the largest triumph for any candidate of any party in the presidential contest. Polymer claims to have an electoral prediction for 2024. In just 2 weeks, Trump stands 64% likely to win the election. He is en route to win 312 to Kamala Harris's 226 on the electoral map. I really appreciate you folks watching. For more stuff like this heading up to the election in November, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.